Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back from lunch. Thank you for honoring the time. We'll take group 5, and all the way from group 5, please help me welcome Mrs. Rahila.
Weta, the girl child. Yes.
We have 25 minutes.
When you allow this guy to keep flying, you are timing me now. Okay, I agree.
5 minutes.
I agree. Okay.
Time off.
Okay, I'm with you. We have unlocked. Hello?
Yes.
Who is going? Why is it zona? Our priority focal area, this is group 5. Group 5 presenting, we have 6 issues as instructed by Victor. Priority area we picked is awareness as our number 1. Identified issue is inadequate climate change education. We had to do that to replace it with education, not awareness as it is in the... So the root causes or casual factors: lack of political will, few informed players in the sector. We understand that there are so many people that don't understand the context of climate change in the states. Very few people are in that space and have adequate information. So if we're able to, create awareness, educate the populace, we'll be able to forge a way forward. So specific effects on the citizen, exposure to shocks, risks of vulnerabilities, especially for poor and marginalized, because there's lack of awareness. People don't understand the effect of climate change and the impact in all our life, especially the marginalized. This thing has brought exposure to shocks, risks, and most of the times this effect leave them with mental issues, because if there's flooding or any other things, the only thing that will happen is palliative. After that, they are forgotten. Then the next one is who is benefiting or losing from the situation. Citizens, of course, are affected by the impacts, and government, due to increasing damage that will be very costly. And because there is no more plans for intervention, most of the time budgets that are meant for other things are used for palliative, and that one costs the government additional costs. Solutions, what can be done to address the problem, blockage identified? We say we will do that through research. We have multi-level targeted sensitization by CSOs. Media and other non-state actors can also be engaged. Advocacy, aggressive media engagement through local, traditional and new media. All-inclusive town hall engagement will be done. Not the type of town halls, political town halls, but we need to do that through awareness. Then number 2, we picked a lack of established climate change policy implementation framework. We know there's a policy, but the framework for implementation is not there. So we say there's limited knowledge on climate in the states. Slow bureaucratic processes. We understand that the document is on progress. We are told that it will soon come out, but it's very slow. Then the next one, we say few climate change programs due to no or poor funding. We know that there are some monies attached to from MDAs, but it's not adequate, and there's no cash backing to such funds to, engage in climate programs. Then who is losing? Everyone is losing. That is showing lack of political will and no adequate funding to address the climate-related citizens' needs in the states. So we said what we will do. We'll also do the research, the policy gap analysis. We'll do policy dialogue to be able to, discuss with those that don't have the political will. Then public hearing will also be done. There will be media or community engagement. We'll review the climate policy to be gender and disability responsive. Then we have number under 2A and 2B. Inadequate monitoring of an evaluation in data policy and decision making. So it's the 2B of the lack of established climate change policy. Poor quality data, no robust data collection. Even the one that has been collected is underutilized in the state. So it does not cover climate issues. Then we say poor planning and implementation, and this will give rise to lack of service delivery. Then inadequate or poor quality service provision and utilization across health and education. Inability to provide targeted intervention for needy groups such as women, the children, PWDs, and other vulnerable groups. Those are people that will be affected. Then who is losing? We said the citizens are most affected because poor or inadequate services are provided with few benefiting, while poor rural communities suffer, while needy groups are also excluded in most of the intervention, if it is there. Then we say, what do we do the solution? We say we develop an MIE framework, evidence-based policy advocacy, public policy dialogue in local government and states. We incorporate data tools into KDBS study, incorporate gender and disability inclusion into data collection tools. That will help us to holistically solve the issue. Then number 3, the IMES. We say inadequate utilization of education data for improved services and create climate awareness in school. The low awareness on the importance of climate change and how it affects education. Then we say low provision of climate-friendly infrastructure. Learners and schools are exposed to harmful effects of climate change, especially girls, learners with disability, and other vulnerable learners. Because most of the climate issue, the impact in schools, when you go, There are the infrastructure like the wash facilities are mostly affected, and this affects girls and other learners. Then we say who are most affected. We say learners and schools suffer the most due to lack of climate-friendly facilities and exposure to the impact of climate change that affects the access to school. It also affects retention, transition, and learning outcome. Then what is the solution? We say we want to introduction of climate change, environmental protection, and resilience sensitization in school. The use of climate-improved facilities to reduce impact of climate change through planting trees and flowers in schools, provision of water source and sensitization on gender, responsive climate resilience program for learners. In some schools you go, most of the wash facilities you see, the platform are not built as improved climate. So most of the time when flooding comes, those platforms are overflooded, and students will not be able to use the convenience. And you see that you see so many other disease or outbreak. So 4A, absence of legal framework to operationalize the Kaduna Center for Disease Control to manage disease outbreak. This one too, we learned that it is also on progress, but it's slow bureaucratic process to hasten the finalization of the document is in progress. We were told the document is alive, but it's in a snail this thing. So hindrance to the full takeoff is depriving citizens of quality service delivery. That's the legal framework for that center. And this also affected the state during the COVID-19 on what to do. Everyone is losing, all of us, because the state is not fully equipped to respond to high impact outbreak. Then we say the solution is that CSOs should be involvement in advocacy to relevant authorities, prioritization of the finalization of the framework by MDAs. So those are things that the CSOs will be involved. Then under the health again, 4B, weak health facility oversight by ward development committees and local government. Presently, there is a disconnect between the WDC and the LGA leadership funding and on the reporting lines, because the issue of the facility under one roof, where the state is the one that runs that finance, is bringing a problem, and the LGAs, most of them don't understand what WDC are doing, even though they are under them. So we say the disconnect, they should have a form of collaborating and partnership. Community ownership of health facilities is affected due to poor citizen engagement. Those are the people that are affected because of that disconnect between the two. Then we say who is losing? Everyone is losing, because effective demand and supply accountability of services are affected if these two people are not understanding themselves. Then we say what is the solution? We say we will identify and strengthen communication and partnership between WDC and the LGA leadership by the agency, and CADMAM is responsible for that. Then disability inclusion, limited inclusion of persons with disability in policy making implementation. So there's a non-institutionalization of PWDs by implementing the provision of the disability implementation framework in the relevant MDAs. Then marginalization of PWDs and no prioritization of PWD in the planning and budgeting and implementation of climate related climate change programs. These are the things that is affecting. So they say you cannot chef somebody's here in his absence. So we want to see that there's inclusion in what is going on. PWDs are losing because they are not included in the climate change plans and programs. They are doubly affected due to their conditions. Then we say, what is the involvement? What is the solution? We say involvement of JONAPIP at all levels, and their research, planning, budgeting, implementation, and monitoring. They should be involved. Number 6, social protection. Unavailability of climate-related social protection programs to address shocks, risks, and vulnerability. Then what are the issues? We say there's is worsened by the impact of COVID-19, heightening level of poverty due to current economic situations. So the next one is increasing level of poverty and hardship for poor vulnerable population, especially poor rural women and PWDs. So who is losing? Poor rural communities, especially women, PWDs, and other vulnerable populations. How do we provide solutions to it? We say we design and co-implement climate resilient social protection programs to address shocks, risks, and vulnerabilities, especially for the needy, poor rural communities, women and PWDs, and other vulnerable population. Our strategy. Am I allowed? Okay. The strategy for implementing the coalition grants, the issue, the research and awareness. We set the platform. We identify a network to take the lead of the consortium, players, government, civil society, facility/community level accountability mechanism, that is WDC, SBMC, environment and community champions, media and relevant partners with capacity to deliver on education, health, PWD, care workers, social protection, environment, governance, and community engagement. Those are players we want to engage with in our strategy. Our goal to ensure the delivery of critical and inclusive health, education, and social protection services with effective management of human resources, increasing adaptive capacity, and effective scaling up of sustainable solution. That's our goal. What we hope to achieve is to have a robust and inclusive research work, number there, stakeholder environment mapping, 2, need assessment and prioritization, then program design that will lead to evidence issue-based advocacy, sensitization, policy review, media and community engagement, social protection programs that will support mitigation, adaptation, and resilience to reduce climate impact on vulnerable citizens and systems in Kaduna State. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Group 5. Can we take feedback? I'm sure there's somebody in the group that is taking notes. Can we take feedback for Group 5? You? Okay.
Well done for a wonderful work. Well done, everyone. So just an observation that under who is benefiting, losing from the situation. So I think for it to have a clear picture, just like what was commented for the other group, that everyone needs to be specific. Everyone. Citizens can be used in place of that, or citizens and government can be used. Yes, and also, I don't know, from my own perspective, that particular angle focuses on who is losing. So I think if we should have who is also benefiting from it, you'll be able to better inform the strategy to implement, because who is benefiting from it may be an hindrance to your solution. So I think it will also give a better picture. Thank you.
It sounds too noted, so that we'll just move on.
I don't know who
Okay, well done to the group. I just want to ask, could you scroll down a bit? Yes, just right there. Oh, okay. So I'm seeing part of your solution. Yes, under policy. Under policy, yes. I'm seeing you have a solution here about developing an M&E framework. Don't we have one already for the state? Yeah. For Kaduna State, I think there is an M&E. We still have an M&E framework. We have an M&E framework, and I think this M&E framework also accommodates, citizens' participation in it. That is just what I have seen so far from your presentation. I did not. Okay.
Please, can you be specific and write it like? Okay. All right. Thank you. Director, I saw that you were smiling. Question?
No. I said that they are actually responding directly.
Yeah. No, I the way you were smiling, I thought there was a question to the smile. Thank you.
Well done, everyone. I like the way where you said everybody is losing. When my sister here mentioned that it has to be specified. In any case, if we have beneficiaries, we also have losers. When we look at it from the perspective of the private sector, let's take, for instance, of waste management, whereby all our drainages are blocked. In that case, if the blockage happens, contractor from private sector can benefit, because the government will now award that as a contract for the siltation of the drainage. And if that is not done at the same time, it will also affect the private sector, those who are doing the business of, let me say, agriculture, fishery, and what have you, because when does that waste get to our rivers, it will harm our reptiles, harm our fish and fishery system, and the private sector in that regard also, not that sell fish, sell, all these things will be affected also, you understand? So this is just my opinion. So when she said that it has to be specified, we have private sector in almost every, angle. They may be benefited this side, at the same time, losers at the other side. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So there's no side answer. So if you want to contribute, I think it's fine. Anything that will bring presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and well done for the presentation. I was carried away hearing Madam Rehila's voice. There's a way her voice will just be deceiving you, and then you won't be able to follow the presentation. But I think, can we move to 4A. So I think is it 4A or 4B? sir? Sorry. Go back here. Go up a bit where you mentioned the sense. Yes, exactly. This should be 3. Sorry. So if we look at 3, introduction of climate change, environmental protection, and resilience sensitization. I think since yesterday I've been hearing the word resilience, and I've been trying not to say much about it. So I think this is actually like the first engagement I'm attending for climate change that, resilience is brought forward and not looking at it as an aftermath after you have mitigated and also adapted. So I don't know what you mean by resilience sensitization. For me, it doesn't really sit well. You understand? Because it's an end result when you do whatever strategy you put in is to build resilience. But you should also know that it's not maybe the word is sweet and we're trying to just put it in our documents, but we should also look at it. Does it really sit well in that particular sentence? Whatever we do, in any action that we take, it builds up to building resilience, behavioral, all those things which translate also to how can we build our resilience to those impacts. Then I saw the review of the climate change policy that is around 2. Which is around the review of the climate change policy to include PWD. Is it 2? There's a part of the document. Yes, to be gender and disability responsive. This is actually a good one. But while we look at it, I think there are procedures for policy review. This is the policy that has just been, the climate change policy. It's barely 1 year. So which is, no, you review the climate change policy, which is a good one that we're having gender considerations. But then while we are at it, I'm sure this policy has just been passed, it's barely 1 year. So I think maybe we should look at how do we have a gender action plan, or if we can tie the gender action plan to include persons living with disability. I think that will give us an edge. No, it said review climate change policy. It's written there, but I'm just only suggesting that while we have a climate change policy that is just a few months old, it's something that we can always come together, all of us, and see how can we drive that. It's something that I have had in mind for a while now to look at it, and I think it's something that will be good for us. Let's see if we, the women, and especially those, the he for she's, can actually support us. When we say gender, it might be the men, but I know that Abdul Bako will greatly support on that. If we have the he for she's that are here in the hall that can support us. Thank you. No, so we can look at developing the gender action plan. So we can see how we can incorporate the people that investment in the climate change.
No. Thank you. I think that's fine. Any more feedback to this group? Any more feedback to this group? Yes. Who is? Jacob, you wanted to say something? All right.
Well done, ma'am, for the presentation. Mine is a question. Mine is a question. It's a question, ma'am. Can you hear me? So I just want to ask, you said there is a point where you mentioned something about absence of climate change programs. I can't remember the number. But absence of climate change programs. Social pro- so okay, so I don't know, maybe in the state action plan of OGP, how are you going to align this? How is this a priority to the state? Are there no social protection programs already existing in the state? No. Okay, that's your priority.
All right. Any more feedback for group 5? Any more feedback for group 5?
It's in group 5.
Don't worry. What if you prefer to decamp?
Yes, thank you, Group 5. A very nice presentation. Take your bow and leave, please.
Please, can we appreciate group 5? Please, can you update it with the feedback and just share? Okay. So, all right, Jessica, please, your group have the floor. So one thing to note. Hello, please. Please, one thing to note. Hello. Let's group. Please, one thing to note. We are not looking for a perfect presentation, right? That's not the idea. The idea is to have, even if it's a 40% presentation, right? We will take it. Then the feedback can improve the presentation. Whether the word is smart, the word is on point, but the support to everybody to that group.
We appreciate this preamble. We appreciate the preamble of our presentation.
I know that your presentation might not be.
Like 20%. 20. We help you today. 15 minutes. 15 minutes?
Yes.
Testing the microphone. Testing the microphone. Apologies because our group are rule abiders. We like to abide by the rule. They gave us a template. We refuse to expand the template. We have seen Excel in this meeting. We have seen another one with 10 tables. Well done to everybody. Okay, so, I told you I like to play. So for our group, we are the social policy. I'm sorry, the place is so loud. Thank you. We are the social policy group, which is group 3. We have education, health, and social protection. By way of introduction, the group adopted the pair-wise ranking. I'm sure most of you know the pair-wise ranking. We use that ranking. Okay, so it's a method of a tool to be able to prioritize our issues. So it's a research tool, just like SWOT, just like the problem tree analysis. We use pair-wise ranking. I don't know how to illustrate that, but that's the ranking we use to agree on the 6 issues that we needed to prioritize. And so that's why we put it there, that we use the pair-wise ranking to prioritize issues based on their relevance to these key sectors. Identified issue, what is the problem? After the pair-wise ranking, so you're in our group, right? Poor waste management and urban flooding, based on the ranking, came high for us. And the underlying governance issue, which is the root cause for us, weak enforcement of the urban development plan, weak enforcement by the regulators, KEPA, poor coordination and financing for effective waste management, poor sensitization to communities by stakeholders. Those are our 4 key root causes. The next one is specific effects to the citizens. What are the specific effects to the citizens? And we said, when there's the poor waste management and urban flooding, there's a spread of communicable diseases. There's also loss of lives and property. There's also collapse of culverts and bridges. There's also destitution. There's also food insecurity, poverty, as many as possible. And we were saying who is benefiting and who is losing. Based on this issue, we had more of who were losing and identified one that will benefit, will lose. So for government will lose because it will lead to increased spending on interventions rather than preventive measures in terms of sustaining infrastructure. They will have to start budgeting all over again to build back those infrastructures that were lost. So there are examples: rebuilding facilities. Communities, there's going to be increased spending on health, unstable livelihood, and high rates of poverty. So they will be losing. But here we are with private sector, and they have their constituency highly represented here. They will agree with me that it is a win-lose situation. There is going to be increased operational costs in case their activities are also affected. At the same time, it's also a business opportunity. For example, pandemics, we know the pharmaceutical issue. Pandemics lead to more vaccinations and more drugs. Private sector will make money. Then we went to solution. Some of our external actors, how do we want to address this problem? Looking at the possibility of PACE supporting this, and that's why we put it under possibility. We want to make sure that it's within our capacity to implement. Strengthen coordination of waste management in Kaduna State, main strategy. And we will do it through enhancing stakeholder mechanism. Once we do our mapping, we discover the mechanisms on ground, we enhance their capacity to deliver. Develop advocacy strategy for waste management. So we need to have this kind of meeting to develop a strategy for advocacy, whereby we know who are our targets, do all the mapping, blah, 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 know where we will get more money for waste management, which agency will do what. That's what the strategy will help us to identify, to resolve. Number 2 strategy is develop a communication strategy on proper waste management. And under it, we have 1.21, which is conduct a communication development workshop, where we would agree on our IEC tools, what are some of the campaign strategy we will use, radio jingles, blah, blah, blah. So a communication plan will help us achieve that. For 1.2, we looked at it. Based on the ranking, it appeared as the second. But the number 1, if properly implemented, we also address number 2. So we just said, link to issue 1 above. We will replicate this in this particular. And then what we did in our group, we collapsed 8 and 18. 8 is also talking about education, increased knowledge. And then 18 was saying increased knowledge of, on climate change in general. So if we collapsed it and said inadequate climate change knowledge and utilization of education data for improved services, in bracket, create climate awareness in schools. So it covers both schools and every other. So we collapse those two. So number 3, weak health facility oversight by ward development committees and local governments. That was one of our issues. Remember, we are the social policy sector. We have health, social protection, and education. So we definitely have to prioritize our key thematic areas. The root cause, low capacity and knowledge on health products and services. We had a conversation with one of the WDC. We had to call him on phone. He sent us the national guideline on the strategy for WDCs. And one of the challenge that Cadmam also told us was that there are issues on how to effectively provide oversight on the activities of the facility. And there are a lot of issues of mismanagement of fund and blah, blah, blah. So, but if you want to hold them accountable, at least you need to know their level of capacity and knowledge on even the service they are providing. So we can't say they are not doing this if we don't know, we cannot assess their level of. So what we said as the root cause would be that they have low capacity on knowledge on health products and services to be able to deliver on their oversights. 3.2, institutional processes and criteria for nomination is weak. Again, the processes that brought them into power, into that structure, says community influence, community influencers, is a community-led platform. But then, what are their criteria like? Can we enhance their criteria so that they can be more efficient? So low funding to enhance performance of their oversight functions. Again, sometimes funding gaps, also hinders their performance in being able to provide oversight functions. Then weak accountability mechanism. WDC, as you all know, is also an accountability mechanism, but tracking it itself, I think it's flawed. There's a flaw in being able to make it accountable, even when it is an accountability mechanism. So I think at that level, we think that it is at the state strategy that will address that. So the question says the specific effects. So the specific effect is inefficient health service delivery at community. Once this oversight is not done well, as signatories to those facilities, how will the community be able to get good access to good services and products if those given the mantle to ensure that the facilities are functioning well are not doing it? So we said there's going to be inefficient health service delivery at community. It will also lead to high apathy of health interventions at community level. So the community people will stop using facility. They no longer trust the facility because the people that are supposed to help the facility to become very functional are not doing so everything will collapse. The system will collapse. Then we said low access to healthcare services across facilities. For that purpose, they won't even access the facility. So magana revitalization of PHCs BAC. We have Malam Bashir. I spoke Hausa. Did you hear me? Okay. So 3.1 benefits and loss, right? It is a loss to the government if they don't use that facility. Loss of lives, increased spending on curative rather than preventive. You will be hearing government investing 2-point-something billion for RUTF when we can begin to enhance how people can have access to good nutrition in their households. So more money will be spent in curative rather than preventive, which preventive does what is called counseling. Most times it's counseling on good practices. So then rather than preventive measures, that is rebuilding trust and usage of health facilities will be very low. For communities, there's going to be increased out-of-pocket expenditure because they will have to go to private facilities. Patent shop owners, traditional bat attendants, they no longer trust the facility will give them what they want. So, for example, we wrote again, unstable livelihood and high rate of poverty. Now, the funny part of this is that for private sector, we did not see any loss. It was benefits. Because, unfortunately, when we were talking about it, we were like, even when they die, who cares? In the private sector, even if you lose a patient, who cares? Nobody. So, they will even hold your relative and say, he is owing us the balance for the health services that we gave them before he died. You have to complete it. So it is a win-win for the private sector. It is profiting opportunity to make sales, e.g. patent shop owners, traditional birth attendants. And what we suggested in terms of strategy is 1, strengthen capacity of WDCs in Kaduna State. That can be done. 3.2, review their strategy and guideline for WDC to enhance performance and accountability. We discovered that they've not adopted that strategy for Kaduna State. So we do not know if the National Primary Healthcare, thank God Dr. Sunday is here, if the National Primary Healthcare is not allowing states to domesticate the guideline for WDCs. If they are allowing states that are functioning to adopt, then it is high time we get support to adapt it to our own local contexts. So that way we can hold them accountable to the work they do in the facilities. Next is unavailability of climate-related shock responsive social protection program. So for those that are using the template you got from Victor, we had corrected the English in that place because, you know, it's our area. We know how to coin the English. So please take notes. So, lack of climate root cause. Lack of climate-related shock responsive adaptation measures is not available. 4.2, ineffective coordination on climate and social protection related services. This area is fragmented. Social protection belongs to different areas now, and so fragmentation is bound to happen. We need it to, we have a coordination of that area in our strategy. Now, what will be the effects? Increased poverty and vulnerability, of course. Once there is a climate-related disaster, more people will fall short of the benchmark of $1 per day. And there's going to be loss of lives, properties and livelihood. Displacement leads to food insecurity. Then, who are the benefactors and who will lose? The government will lose, the loss of life, our lives. They said the governor is the chief security officer of the state, right? And as such, all of us here, he's supposed to protect our life. So the loss of lives, increased spending on curative rather than preventive measures, e.g., palliative distribution. We are saying that if we have more of preventive measures already working, we do not have to be running to buy rice for somebody that might not need rice at that moment of his vulnerability. So it will be vulnerability targeted, meaning what is for the children, what is for the youth, what is for the women, what is for the elderly, what is for persons with disability. 4.2, the communities, unstable livelihood, high rates of poverty, displacement, loss of life, destitution. For private sector, it is time for Alaji to bring out his grains from where he has hide them and sell it to government at double the price. So we have issues of, it is a profiting opportunity to make sales of drugs, building materials, even food items become high. Our strategy is develop a climate-related shock responsive implementation plan. Currently, the reviewed social protection policy has captured shock responsive climate-related shock responsive social protection. We also have the community engagement social climate-related social protection framework, and we are thinking that if we have an implementation plan that seems to capture, but the policy doesn't have an implementation plan, it will capture this area well. It will be able to spell out the activities and who is responsible. And it's going to be cost effective. There's going to be costing attached to it, especially for the social protection policy. Establish a technical working group on climate and social protection related issues. We have a state steering committee on social protection, agreed. But then, SEMA plays a role in this shock responsiveness, Ministry of Environment, all those other key areas. So we are suggesting, one of our strategy is establish a technical working group under that steering committee that will be tasked with these assignments. Number 5, limited inclusion of persons with disability, PWD, in policy making implementation. 5.1, stigmatization of PWDs, our root cause. Most of the times, the reason why we have low participation, first and foremost, is stigma. Stigma from our policymakers and even stigma from the society. So the stigma is all-rounder. Low implementation of the disability law. What the disability law has done is establish the disability board. But in terms of even budget approval, they've not gone there yet. Their trust fund was a political statement that never saw the light of the day. So, implementation of the disability law, if it is implemented, every other issue about inclusion will be addressed. Low participation and representation in governance is the effect it will have in our community. That is why in the justification of that problem, you will see that they are not included in the discussions on policy. It's limited. It's not that they are not included, but it's limited. Low self-esteem. That is why we see most of them, people have this perception that they are supposed to be beggars because, they don't have a placement in the society. Increased burden of poverty and vulnerability, and then displacement. So those are the effects of this limited access. This is what it leads to. So, government, high burden of poverty. That is the loss, is not a benefit. High burden of poverty, one-sided development, loss of the whole of society perspective in development. 5.2, for communities, extra burden on families, high rate of poverty, exclusion from opportunities, etc. is still at the loss side. And this time around, the private sector they don't have a benefit. They didn't even come out because, in the first place, they are not people, right? We don't have any investment for those set of people. So it's a problem on its own that we think we need to do something about it. So advocacy, our strategy is advocacy on the implementation of the disability law. advocacy on release and cash backing for the Disability Affairs Board, conduct awareness creation activities on inclusion of PWDs in policy implementation across states, LGA communities. Number 6, we said that, we are social policy. First of all, take care of your side. Somebody is interested in this area, he will put it. This is our key area. We manage our constituency well. That is all.
Jessica, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate you. I like the flair you've added to it. All right. So can we take feedback, please? But quickly. So while we are writing and while we are presenting, there are catchwords I said yesterday. That when we write, let's write in a way to capture the attention of the politician and the citizen. Just take a look at that board. Poor, inadequate. You repeated that word, inadequate, poor. Inadequate on number 1, close to 8 times. So if this gets to somebody that is going to make decision, as much as your concerns are genuine, but you're already attacking him already. So while we write, let's know that we are writing not for ourselves. We are writing for everybody. Yoruba people used to say, sorry, get brother, sorry, get sister, right? So let's write well. First of all, right, it's very important. I hear a good word coming out, resilience, gender. I specifically went around yesterday to say, let's put on a gender lens in our approach, in the strategies we are developing. For the remaining 2 groups, please, let's look at our gender lens. I like the flair to it. Jessica, you provided the context, the content, but sometimes it is not captured in your presentation. It wasn't captured, but the context, you have the content. Like when you say it, I could picture what Jessica is saying, and I realized it's a very important issue. That issue of PWD, I could put my money into it, but the way it was couched, right, wasn't selling it out for me. But that is an issue. I thought from where I'm standing, I personally thought that one could be your number 1.
Private sector not even investing in person.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I thought that could be your number 1. I said hey, not all right, but that's my own feedback. Don't limit me. So let others share their own feedback.
Thank you very much.
But good work to your group. Thank you very much. I liked it.
Yes, very nice one. I thought the gender lens is giving ladies and the gender to present. Let's on a lighter note anyway. Yeah, let's go to 3. Your bulletin 3. Yes, weak health facility oversight by ward WDCs and our local government. A very fantastic one, but we shouldn't narrow it to local government and ward WDCs alone. Why is Bashir here? The House of Assembly. They are here. They should be a part of this thing to make Kaduna great again. No. I am speaking to this. Weak health facility. When you say weak health facility, the facilities are not narrowed to just PSC alone. They are broadened to even secondary and tertiary facilities. So the oversight should not be limited to ward WDCs alone and should not be limited to local government. Bashir. Oversight.
Thank you. Ma, I think do you want to share something on this number 3? I think you should. Sorry.
I didn't want to say anything as if I'm attacking, but let me just, I think from the area this question came out, I was in no, is it Kano? I wasn't in Kano. But I remember we were in one of the meetings and they brought up this argument that the LGA, the chairman, made this complaint that they don't have insight to what is happening around them. And they will just see people like contractors, they will just come to the facility and start working. They don't have anything to say. I think that's where the question came in. So they are like, they don't have any power, even if the contractor didn't do any good work, that's how they'll just be, they are just there. I think that is where the question came in. And because when I asked, they said the WDC made this. So we talked, during that meeting, we talked about the line of communication, because now the state primary health care is under one roof. So the route of communication is not through the local government. The coordinating body now is the state primary health care board. So for recruitment, for salaries, for it's through primary health care board. So the LGA chairman, they don't know anything that is as if it's happening around. And when they came up with this, I think the answer they gave them is the revitalization, because it's issue of revitalization that came up. And they told them that, all these politicians, the awarding of the contracts, handling of everything is being done the governor's office. So even the state primary health care board, they will just see a contractor. I'm just saying this because you asked me to, because I didn't want to say anything. They will just see the contractor will just come, and then the way the local government are seeing, that is how the people they are seeing it. So that is their concern, their main concern is the line of communication.
Thank you very much. Again, 3.3, private sector, PPMVs. One of the quick things I did was to clarify with Dr. Sunday to say, is it a profiting opportunity for them? And when you presented, you said yes. So the thing is that in my other life, if a patient dies in your shop or as a result of administering drugs to a patient, your shop is locked, right? So, and I've confirmed from Dr. Sunday in this life, right? So this particular place, it can also be a loss, right? Depends on the context we are looking at it from. All right, thank you. Somebody else wants to say? Aja Mistura, your hands are up.
Good afternoon. Wonderful presentation. I think number 5 around disability inclusion. Number 5. Yes. Number 5, you talked about the issue, you talk about low implementation of disability law. I think that should be the implementation plan, which has been developed, but up to date has not been signed by the governor. The implementation plan, that's what is holding the disability law implementation today. So I think we should work towards implementation plan, yes, the signing, so that it will become a legal document.
So, go ahead.
Do you know that the trust fund is handled under the law? A disability trust fund is a standalone under the law. And in the implementation plan, that is not, implementation plan is looking at the activities of how to run the affairs of the board. Okay. Because we had your community with us there, we said that largely, who is in the rehabilitation board, he said that largely we should push for the implementation of the law because it's
also captures other aspects that the implementation plan did not carry, but it's fine. We can add that one. We can. Decision plan. Okay, so we have captured it. Approved. Approved and okay. Fine. Fine.
All right, thank you. Please, can we appreciate?
Okay, so sorry for. I want to specifically talk about what you've said on WDC, and the reason why it is here. WDC in itself is supposed to be an accountability mechanism at the facility. It is an accountability mechanism at the facility. So it is the duty of the WDC to come out and say that the construction of this facility was not done as required. Do you understand? So if the local government chairman is complaining, it's understandable at a political lens. But a WDC is supposed to be standing for the community and not have a bias. And that is why we see it as a gap here. Thank you.
Thank you. All other communications continue offline, right? So let's have group. Is it your group? Yes. Yeah, group 4. Let's have group 4. Who's presenting for you? Yeah, in this group. Why would I want you to present? I want to hold your attention first. What's your group number? I will appreciate it if you guys prioritize your issues, right? Reprioritize. That's the issue coming first.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Abdul Qadir Haya Mohammed, presenting for Group 4. We itemize 6 items as our priority areas. 1. Unsustainable forest exploitation. 2. Inadequate policy budget implementation for climate smart agriculture. 3. Poor waste management and urban flooding. 4. Inadequate climate change knowledge. 5. Unavailability of climate related social protection programs to address shocks, risks and vulnerabilities. These 5 issues itemized are derived from the document template given to us. These 5 items are actually derived from the document template given to us, but we consider item number 6 so important to be ignored. That is why we incorporated it into it, but it's not actually from the 19 sub-teams from the template, which is inadequate livestock production and infrastructure. We know how important this issue is, the conflict between herders and farmers. So we consider this issue too important to be ignored. That is why we co-opted it. So starting with the issues. Unsustainable forest exploitation is the number 1. And we consider inconsistent and insufficient cash back releases. Actually, you will see policy accepted, somehow implemented, but it will not actually be backed up with current fund release. Although the state has enacted relevant laws, formulated policies, and allocated budget lines to support implementation, the actual release of those monies remains inconsistent and insufficient, and that is why we consider this issue so important. And what is the justification of that issue? Why did we actually consider it important and place it as our priority number one? The root cause. Kasa. Loss, okay, the effects to citizens. Loss of biodiversity, increased heat waves. We have been hearing of this urban heat island. When you lose biodiversity, especially the plant, which is the trees, the shrubs, and the grasses, you have high increase of heat waves affecting metropolitan cities like Kaduna, Zaria, and Kapancha, and other smaller urban cities. We have loss of source of livelihood. This biodiversity are source of livelihood to many people. But when you have it, you know, cut off or reduced, definitely a lot of livelihood will be cut off too. Health risk. Heat waves is related to this health risk. We have issues of people that have high blood pressure that normally rises when the heat waves increase. And when you have biodiversity loss, definitely this thing is on the rise. There is also displacement of forced migration. There is social conflict, degraded water quality and availability, land and soil degradation, and of course loss of tourism potential. Some people will come as tourists if you have vast biodiversity, especially plant. But when it is actually handicapped, nobody will come and patronize your tourism. Then who are benefiting from this actual practice? The beneficiaries are producers of firewood or charcoal, transporters of charcoal or firewood, retailers and users, illegal revenue collectors, because there are people that are pretending to be revenue collectors, but they are not actually assigned by government. So they are illegal, you know, beneficiaries. Then who are the losers? The losers are the communities where such biodiversity loss is actually happening, especially women, children, the elderly, PWDs, and the sick people. There is also loss on the part of government, because government is going to lose revenue. Now, how do we address the problem? We have technical support to access carbon credit, ecosystem services charges to cover for budget on performance. If actually there is high performance on activity, there should be allocation, or there should be a room for accessing carbon credits. Build and strengthen strong vertical, diagonal, horizontal accountability mechanism to checkmate favoritism, nepotism in forest releases. You will see a situation whereby if a forest is actually too thick, there is need for reduction of some species that are too much, or trimming of such species. So actually, the right thing to be done in reducing or trimming such forest is to actually contract professionals, those who have the technical know-how. But you will see some people being assigned who don't know anything about it. So there is need of removing those people to actually intervene in the reduction or in the trimming of forest. Then provision of incentives to encourage behavioral shift in affected communities. Number 4, to strengthen collaboration through public-private partnership to effectively manage forest resources. To support public awareness, education, and capacity building for sustainable practices. To strengthen advocacy for restoration and reforestation. To strengthen result-based monitoring and build demand or enforcement. Then we go to number 2. Our area of priority number 2 is politicization of forest leases. That Yes. Shift it. This way. Is this number 2? Yes, okay, yeah. Yeah, number 2, politicization of forest leases. But this issue somehow, this one is somehow part of number 2. This suggestion is addressing this number 2. It's addressing number 2. Okay. Poverty, additional widespread poverty has driven many residents to depend on tree felling and charcoal production as sources of livelihoods and energy, further exacerbating environmental degradation. Okay. Number 2, inadequate policy budget implementation for climate smart agriculture. So actually, justification of this issue is that Kaduna agricultural sector faces increasing vulnerability from inconsistent in rainfall patterns, recurring drought, and soil degradation. Yet, local policies and agricultural extension services remain inadequate. Climate responsive largely due to limited prioritization in planning and budgeting processes, the result of which is limited knowledge and capacity among policy and decision makers, as well as weak demand for accountability on climate smart agriculture. This gap undermines food security, disrupts livelihoods, and weakens local economies. Addressing this challenge through climate adaptation effort will require active collaboration among farmers, civil society organizations, and local government authorities. Now, all realistic budgeting and fiscal constraint. The state, despite an increase in budget size, has experienced below expectation revenue performance. This is largely attributed to unrealistic budgets as a result of over-ambitious projections. The state also faces fiscal constraints due to high debt service and other liabilities. This affects the volume of allocations and cash-backed releases for issues like climate smart agriculture. Now, the effects, this is number 2, number 1. Okay. Food security, when you have this issue in place, definitely there will be food insecurity. So it's going to cause a lot of food insecurity. Inflation in food price as a result of weak extension services, access to smart seeds, limited uptake of new innovations, and related facilities. Example, greenhouse farming and other inputs. Next. Okay, beneficiaries of this menace: agro-allied companies that produce climate unfriendly inputs, commercial farmers, losers, smallholder farmers, consumers, and the communities. How to address this? To deepen the knowledge and strengthen the capacity of policy decision makers to prioritize climate smart agriculture in planning and budgeting. To strengthen the relevant accountability mechanisms to advocate for climate smart agriculture prioritization, track and demand for accountability in planning and budgeting. To provide technical support and strengthen citizens' voice during the budget formulation process, especially during the medium-term expenditure framework and consultation engagement. So item number 3 we consider important is poor waste management and urban flooding. The justification of this is: 1, we have poor attitudes. Communities generally exhibit poor attitude toward waste management. People are just behaving anyhow. No compliance with CAPA suggestion, no compliance with Ministry of Environment suggestion, no compliance with any health organization or any health agency responsible for managing the environment. So, 2, weak enforcement. One of the issues is that the law enforcement agencies, especially KEPA, probably they don't have even enough manpower to ensure compliance. Or even if there is manpower, there must be security agency backing up their monitoring activities. So there is actually poor and weak enforcement. So this is compounding the inefficiencies among service providers and weak enforcement mechanism. In fact, I think KEPA is even removed out of the equation. It is private organizations that are responsible for the management of this waste. I don't know. As at last 2 years, I don't know if there is KEPA doing it now? Okay, political interference. Political interference often influences the selection of service providers who are not granted authority to recruit their own personnel or enforce compliance, as staffing is typically dictated by political stakeholders. Additionally, overlapping mandates among relevant ministries, departments, and agencies further hinder effective coordination. Okay, what is the effect of this? 1, health risk, contamination of groundwater and surface water. We have displacement of households and businesses, including service disruption, damage and loss of lives and properties. There is also soil degradation. Who are benefiting from this menace? Contractors and service providers, disaster emergency entrepreneurs, and political actors. Who are the losers? Low-income communities, affected communities, especially women, children, elderly, PWDs, and the sick. Businesses are also affected, and government too. How to address this? We need to expand and strengthen behavioral change campaigns on waste management and urban plan adherence, using the urban community-led total sanitation approach. We need to support advocacy to check policy somersault through system strengthening on waste management. There is also the need for the mainstreaming of emergency preparedness and response flood mitigation plans and early warning systems in planning and budgeting. We also need to strengthen citizen engagement and foster partnerships with the private sector for more sustainable solutions. Which number is this? Number 4? Yeah, this is number 4. Inadequate climate change knowledge. The justification for this as our area of priority is that many communities across the state lack basic knowledge of climate change and its potential threats, making it difficult for them to recognize early warning signs or prepare adequately for climate-related events. 2, access to information. There is insignificant gap to access information and education on climate resilience strategies, including sustainable agriculture, water conservation, and disaster preparedness. There is knowledge gap within communities, and communities remain disproportionately vulnerable to the impact of flood, droughts, and extreme weather events, which threaten their livelihoods and security and well-being. There is also strengthening climate resilience requires inclusive engagement and collaborative action with communities through awareness campaigns, capacity building, and integrating indigenous knowledge with climate-smart solutions. Now, the beneficiaries, yes, okay, the effect, sorry, as it exposes citizens to the impact of climate change, increased vulnerability or decision making to mitigate and adapt, resistance to mitigation and adaptation measures. Beneficiaries, who are the beneficiaries? Vested interests, fossil fuel companies, manufacturing and production companies. Who are the losers? The farmers, the communities, the vulnerable groups. How to address the problem? To strengthen collaboration, coordination, and communication on climate change knowledge. To build civil service organizations' capacity on emerging issues and right advocacy approach to climate change. To build partnerships with research institutions and expert-led forums. To develop technology, example mobile application, online platforms, etc. for social media campaigns to reach a wider audience. To use mobile applications to provide information on local climate impact and adaptive measures. And to also strengthen partnership with traditional media for effective awareness creation. Okay, the fifth item, unavailability of climate-related social protection programs to address shocks, risks, and vulnerabilities. So justification for this is number one, implementation framework lacks clarity. In the state, we have seen the state has adopted a social protection policy that acknowledges the role of climate-related shocks in deepening poverty and vulnerability. However, the policy's implementation framework lacks clarity on how to effectively connect affected individuals and communities to existing shock responsive social programs, protection programs. Now the effects. It causes increased exposure to the adverse effect of the climate change. Now, who are the beneficiaries of this? Vested interests use the opportunity to score political and economic gains. Who are the losers? Smallholder farmers and vulnerable women, children, PWDs, elderly, other marginalized groups. How to address this? Advocacy that climate-related protections are integrated into existing social protection programs to enhance resilience. To advocate for increased budget dedicated to climate resilience and social protection initiatives. To engage communities in assessing their specific vulnerabilities and design tailored social protection programs. To educate communities on available social protection, intervention, and programs, and how to access them. Lastly, to provide technical support to government and organizations with the necessary skills to design and implement effective social protection programs. So the last item, this one is not from the document. We consider this important. Inadequate livestock production infrastructure. Justification for it in our report. One, lack of comprehensive policy framework. The state possesses designated grazing reserves and an authority responsible for livestock regulation. However, it currently lacks a comprehensive policy framework to guide livestock production and management. Particularly, that's all? Okay. What is the effect? Health risk, economic risk, conflict between herders and farmers. Beneficiaries of this. exotic breeds importers, other livestock importers, suppliers, commercial livestock farmers. The losers, government, consumers, smallholder farmers. How to address this? To build coalition of livestock farmers and build capacity on advocacy and social accountability. To strengthen public-private partnership to increase access to micro loans and grants, and to support multi-stakeholder advocacy for the upgrade of livestock infrastructure with focus on public and private. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, right? All right, please, can we take feedback to the group? Even if I know some of the members of the group are on WhatsApp, are on social media, they are just there online, but let's take feedback to the group. See them now, see them. Let's take feedback, please. Yeah? Okay, let me come to you, sir.
In the course of listening to the presentation, I think I had terms, expressions like political interference being mentioned, and I was attentive to hear when we are talking about beneficiaries. Only when I will hear somebody say politicians benefit, and I didn't get to hear that. I think when we talk about political interference, we have to be careful. Because if we talk about what we need to fight is institutionalization and capacity of citizens to engage the policy makers so that their whims and caprices does not affect their decisions. So because if as a politician his interest or her interest is to ensure that what they do, they are acceptable to the people, and that by their actions, they will get their votes the next time they are presenting themselves. So oftentimes, when you hear we mention this interference as if interference in itself is a bad thing. It's not always bad. When we were talking about WDCs, there was this issue of chairmen now complaining that they do not know what is happening in PSCs. And I guess why the communication was made in such a way they were excluded was that there is the fear that if chairmen get involved, something may happen. Okay? So when we look at those issues, let's look at how we can strengthen institutions in such a way that those people who are beneficiaries, the citizens, can engage and can make those things not to happen, rather than seeing the interference as a problem. Because every politician has a goal. He has told people, I'm going to do this when I get voted. And therefore, when he gets voted and finds out that there are some things that may make him not achieve those objectives, of course, you will intervene. And so that is not necessarily in the negative sense. Most times it's for positive.
Thank you very much, sir. Well taken. Well said, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to make this contribution because we've been talking, you made mention of, I couldn't get it exactly, but you made mention of KEPA in one of the presentations, that they do not have enough staff. So I just want to, so that you include it in your presentation. In health, I know when we were coming up, we used to have this Dubogari. You remember Dubogari? This health, environmental health, they are still there in the health sector. But most of them, I don't know what is happening. So I just want, so that you include it, to strengthen the partnership or collaboration with KEPA and then environmental health officers at the state level. They have their offices at the LGA level, and they are there, but it seems they are not doing much. And we have this program. Let them come on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma. Well said. More feedback to the group? More feedback to the group? Okay. There's no law that to be passed, right?
Number one, sir. Yes, I think part of the solution, I don't know if we can look at it from this angle. We used to have forest guard. If they can also be effective in trying to solve this problem, where are our forest guard? Where are they today? Rangers, forest rangers, where are they today? So I think they also need to be part of this solution to strengthen their capacity to involve in this. Thank you.
Hello, please. Let's take feedback. I know that sugar level is down, but please, let's take feedback. The earlier, the better, right? Thank you.
Okay, I think it's a very wonderful presentation, but I just saw, is it unrealistic budgeting or unrealistic revenue projections or whatever. I don't think we've been having unrealistic revenue projections in Kaduna. Considering, we've been outperforming, and the sectoral allocation, we've been outperforming and VAT, our revenues. You can't hear me? Okay, we've been outperforming the targets, in sectoral allocations. We've been outperforming the targets in VAT. We've been outperforming the loans and grants. I think it's just the IGR that it's not really up to that 120 billion. But this thing, if you look at the history of Kaduna State, where we are coming from, I think 70 billion even last year, I think is a very good attempt. So I think I don't think we can just generalize on the performance of or realistic revenue performance. And secondly, I've been seeing climate responses. We've been having that in Kaduna State for a very long time. Considering even in the MTF we have what is called a planning reserve, contingency reserve, and presently we are going to be having a climate response reserve. So next year's MTF is going to be climate, green MTF. So all these things I think is going to be inculcated, to respond to social protection shocks, climate responses, and its shocks, and many other, unforeseen circumstances that may, arise, within the course of the implementation of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica, if you had listened to what Director has said, his main part was for you. But since you didn't listen, I'm not going to say it to you. Any more feedback to this group? All right, thank you. Please, can we appreciate group? Group 1, group 5, group 4, group 4. Thank you very much. Please, let's take the last group, I noticed, hello, please, I noticed something. Please, can we support each other while we are making presentations? Let's support each other, right? Let's support each other. I know he was saying the last presenter was in, and everybody was, what's happening, right? Please, let's support each other. Let's encourage each other. We do it well. We will not do the
Thank you so much, everyone, for having us. I'm Halir Ahmed Khalifa. I'll be presenting for my group. Yeah, it is so unfortunate that I'm coming last, where I'm exhausted already. So, but then I'll try. Yes, please. Thank you for the motivation. So, we prioritize issues around governance among the priority issues that was presented, among the 20 priority issues. So our first priority is weak enforcement of open contracting standard OCDS and OC for ideas. So one of the underlying factors there is for 1.1 is weak institutional capacity and coordination. Then 2 is inadequate legal and regulatory framework. So particularly when we're talking about weak institutional capacity and coordination for OC for ideas, what we really meant is are we fine? Okay, thank you. So, yes, weak institutional capacity and coordination. Here we're talking about capacity of the staffs to be able to upload the open contracted data standards correctly, and of course also coordinations within the ministries. There's this issue around the other MDAs for them not to be able to have the right capacity to even upload. Again, capacity and also resources in those MDAs to be able to upload these data correctly. Then inadequate legal and regulatory framework that supports the whole of these processes. Then limited political interest. Specific effects to citizens. Here we have erosions of trust in governance, widening of inequality and exclusions, delays or uneven development, limited opportunities for citizens' engagement across all of these processes. Then here we have who benefit from this? Corrupt officials and insiders. And we know when you talk about open contracting data standards, the need to actually upload this data standard. If we don't upload this, definitely, yes, the corrupt officials who would benefit from the citizens not actually understanding the right data that are uploaded. Then, of course, non-compliant or inefficient supplies. Then who loses? Of course, civil society and oversight bodies, citizens and taxpayers, then of course honest businesses and suppliers. Solutions: to build technical capacity and infrastructures, strengthen legal and policy frameworks, enhance stakeholder engagement and awareness, support a community of practice in the utilizations of the OCDs and OC for ideas data for effective engagement and public participations in the procurement processes. Then also to track the compliance of MDAs on procurement data disclosures, and lastly, create a reward system for compliance and proactive disclosure. Our second priority issue is limited commitment to open government partnership implementation through high-level engagement. So 2.1, we have absence of legal frameworks and freedom of information formal disclosure. And one of the key mandates of the open government partnership for its effectiveness was the passage of the FOI. And one of the biggest things that almost every civil society here have been part of is to see is the push for FOI, and and we feel it is one of the things that have been hindering the full implementation of FOI. Today, if another government should come and decide to say we are not doing, I don't want to be part of OGP. it means OGP is gone for good. But if we have structures and frameworks like the FOI, it enables us to keep pushing for, especially conversations that talks about open government partnerships. Please. Yes. Limited political interest, yes. Fear of political backlash from political opponents considered to exploit the OGP. Then from our end, as the OGP, looking at government comes and go. There's this also notions that a particular government could think that if I continue to push the agenda for OGP, for instance, it is not during my tenure that OGP was created. If we continue to push the agenda for OGP, it means the previous government could also, it could be that they will be the ones to take all of the glory of the OGP system itself. So we also think that this is also some of the reasons why there are huge hindrances around the OGP then in terms of framework. Then limited understanding of the practice of open government as a tool to support effectiveness of service delivery. So this is both ways, both government and citizens. In fact, to some extent, even some level of civil society do not understand the power and the actual power of co-creations that open government partnerships comes with. And we feel both government and citizens and civil societies, if we understand the full extent of what co-creations that comes with open government partnership could do, we would have taken it more serious and it would have been more of our priorities. Then low ownership of the OGP by political actors. Yes. Eroding / low level of trust from citizens, levels of citizens' participations undermine. Which word is this? Huh? Okay, yes. Decreased awareness and influence, misaligned service delivery. Then 2.5, it undermines the dividends of them. It undermines the dividends of democracy. Well, my glasses is working. Now, who benefits? Political players with personal interests, residents with vast interests, contractors, residents with vested interests, contractors with the attitude of implementing substandard projects, government officials who are engaging in sharp practices. Who loses? Citizens, the inability to shape what they want as the government is for the people. Civil society, the inability to amplify the challenges of marginalized groups / communities. Private sectors, unfair businesses practice or unavailability of a level playing ground. Government, losses of political capacity. Political capital. So now solutions. Conduct a political economic analysis PPA that will be followed up with implementation. Strengthen the legal framework supporting transparency, accountability, and public participations. Demonstrating the political strength of OGP from the grassroots level to the elite political interest from the high level to the highest level. Then, and again, what we meant by this particular point is we're looking at how we would resuscitate the OGP itself from community levels, For instance, get influencers from the community level, high-level influencers that we know that the people at the high level could be interested in. We have some of these persons at the community. Let's find them and let them understand this, how OGP works. Maybe with that, it will pull the interest of the people at the high level, especially the governor, to be able to put more interest in the participations of the OGP. Then conduct high-level advocacy to prioritize the open governance approach and high-level and highlights the advantages and benefits. Conduct a high-level sensitizations workshop for top government officials on open governance principles. So our priority 3, inadequate use of result-based monitoring and evaluations data in policy and decision-making. Now 3.1, low political will in the utilizations of the M&E data, insecurity in some locations where M&E data is to be sourced, communications gap between M&E reports, communication gap. M&E reports are usually presented in technical formats. They are not understood by non-technical policymakers. Is that all? Okay. 3.4, unrealistic budgets affecting the performance of sectors-wide monitoring and evaluations commitments. Weak 3.5, weak implementations of the M&E, especially in the areas of evaluations. Then 3.6, inadequate statistical data for result-based monitoring and evaluations. Yes, 3.1, missed opportunities for improved outcomes, reduced accountability and trust, perpetuations of inequality. 3.4, sectors-wide inefficiency in the delivery of developmental inputs. Developmental output. 3.5, low feedbacks on citizens' reports and weak feedbacks mechanisms. 3.6, participations of citizens and non-state actors in tracking, reporting, and monitoring of issues, policies, programs, and interventions at community levels. Now, who benefits and who loses? Politicians or decision makers with short-term agendas, inefficient or corrupt entities, institutions not working in line with state developmental priorities, public institutions who have no interest in accountability, both vertical and horizontal, and diagonal. Who loses? Vulnerable groups, children at risk, women, aged and youth, taxpayers, and the society of large organized civil society in need of reliable data for effective engagement, non-state actors investing in self-help initiatives, administrations of the state is at risk of losing popular support. Now solutions. 3.1, improve data quality, strengthen institutional framework on delivering result-based M&E components. 3.3, improve communications of M&E findings to key stakeholders. 3.4, ensuring timely release of sectors' performance reports. This implies that the SIP is monitored which is derived from SDP. Then the report is expected to inform periodic review of the SDP and the SIP. 3.5, ensures more collaborations with partners, CSOs for effective M&E in the state in line with M&E framework for the state. Now, our priority 4, inefficiency in the internal generated revenue, IGR, collections and leakages. Now, 4.1, complex tax. There's supposed to be tax there. Complex tax system. 4.2, inconsistent and overlapping of tax policies from national to subnationals. Then 4.1, low tax compliance and awareness. 4.2, corruptions and fraud. 4.3, weak implementations of tax policies at subnational levels. Which point is? Sorry. Okay, root causes. No, that's not root. Specific effect, you know. So, yeah, specific effect. 4.1, reduce access to public services, increase tax burden, especially on low-income earners, erosion of trust in government and governance. 4.1, rent seekers and intermediaries, non-compliance taxpayers who lost compliance. Who loses? Compliance taxpayers, future generations, the state in the areas of realistic budgeting. Then solutions, simplifying tax systems and tax collection processes, boost taxpayers' awareness and compliance through tax educations and improve grievance redress mechanisms channels. 4.3, automate and digitize tax collections to tackle corruptions and fraud. Our 5th priority, limited legislative oversight of budget implementation. 5.1, low political will of legislators to carry out oversight functions, low capacity to undertake budget assessment and related matters, inadequate budgetary provisions to conduct oversight functions, misuse and underutilizations of public funds as a result of accountability, exclusion of poor and vulnerable citizens due to poor implementations of project and social programs. Who benefits? Contractors, consultants, individuals with state and non-state spaces vested in the process. Who loses? Vulnerable groups, citizens who are meant to benefit from projects and programs suffers from the non-availability of services. Now solutions. Sensitizations to honorable houses, on honorable house for both honorable members and their functionaries on the need to conduct oversight functions of MDAs and LGAs councils. Capacity building to strengthen legislators and their functionaries on oversight and disseminations of oversight reports. Sustains engagement among non-state actors with legislators on uptake of reports scorecards for informed oversight activities. Point 6, weak implementations of successions plan in local governance. 6.1, equity and inclusions gap, insufficient leadership development, limited resource and funding. 6.1, service disruption. 6.6, reduced quality of delivery. delivered. Sorry. 6.3. Yeah. 6.3. Erode public trust. Now 6.1. Who benefit from this? External contractors and consultants, political opportunists. Now solutions. Can you go up? Okay. Leveraging on technology for knowledge management. Then 6.2, attract and retain talent. So I don't know, should we do 47? Okay. So point 7, underutilizations of the Economic Intelligence Unit, EIU, for reliable forecasting in decision making. 4.1, low capacity of critical political actors in understanding the relevance of EIU data. 7.2, low demand of the EIU data in policy formulations and decision making. 7.1, overriding political interest in public service delivery. 7.1, inefficient policy formulation, resource misallocations and wastage, increased vulnerability to crisis, stunned economic growth, lack of accountability and transparency, public distrust. Now, who benefits and who loses? 7.1, political actors with little interest in development planned outcome for the state, opportunist interest in drilling public interest for personal benefits, state actors with weak capacity in planning and development, those who it affects, citizens anticipating the delivery of planned development outcome and manifesto. 7.2, state MDAs. 7.3, 4.1 million citizens affected by multidimensional poverty, including PWDs, children,